Hello viewers, I'm SB and welcome to Into the Breach. This is a new strategy game from the FTL developers. It came out today, or I guess maybe yesterday by the time this actually goes up. It's $15, and I am just having a tremendous amount of fun with it. In fact, I really want to do a full series on this, but docket's a little bit full right now. But I didn't want to just let the release of this slip by without telling you guys about it, because I think it really is, it's fantastic. So we're just going to start a new game. This is a brand new profile here. Get a little bit of backstory. Unfortunately, humanity was destroyed and the mech threat is unstoppable. That's okay, because we have time travel. So we're just going to go fix it. We're going to go back and we're going to fix it. We're going to try again. So this is us here. We're the Rift Walkers. You play this game with a team of 3 mechs, and it's one of the things that's really impressive to me about this game is the scale. And I mean that in the opposite of the way that I would usually mean it. It's so compact, but it never feels small, if that makes sense. Like, it feels like you are looking into a porthole, right? And you see what you see through that narrow opening, but it never gives you the sense that there's nothing going on beyond it. Anyway, let's actually play the strategy game. So I guess we can just start here. This is our time traveler, our main character, Ralph Carlson. He gets 2 extra XP every time he kills something. And there's actually a bunch of these, and over time, as you continue to play the game, the premise is that you go back in time again after you fail and you try again, and you'll encounter pilots that you can then add to your time travel roster, and you can start as any of them. And there are additional squads as well that you earn with these coins. So there's a bunch of achievements, and if you played FTL, this system is probably fairly familiar to you. There's a bunch of achievements in general, and then there's 3 team-specific achievements for each team. And every time you get an achievement, you earn a coin, and then you can spend the coins to unlock more squads. Let's get in here as the Rift Walkers. So there's sort of like 4 broad classes of mechs from what I've seen, and each team obviously only has access to 3 of them, and then the specific versions of those mechs on each team are different. So we are going to start here on the Archive Incorporated Island. These are the 4 islands on which the game takes place, and of course, this is a brand new game, so we're going to have to unlock them all. So this museum island recreates old Earth as it was before the oceans rose and nearly wiped out humanity. And as you might expect, there's not a ton of plot going on here. That's sort of what I mean by, it feels like it's giving you a glimpse. It doesn't need to lay out the whole history of the universe for you. It gives you enough to work with, enough to let you sort of fill in around the edges yourself. If you're from the future, you'll find our island is even further back in time than you expected. If not for the Vec, I'd have loved to give you a tour of the old Earth relics. Alright, there's a combat simulation. We're going to decline. I know what's going on. I can show you guys. So this is our power grid. This is our campaign health, effectively. The way we lose the game is by this running out. Anytime a civilian building takes damage during a mission, we will lose power grid, and that's how you die. Every mission has different potential rewards. We can see here on the map. You only have a couple of missions available to you at first, but as you gain control of areas, you'll be able to go to the areas adjacent to them. So there's this star currency that we'll use to buy items after we complete the island, and there's this, the lightning bolt reward is gaining a point of power grid. So you can see we don't start at full, and I would like to be full. So why don't we head down to the Old Earth Park? So the two extra rewards are tied to these bonus objectives. We'll get the star if we block Vec spawning 3 times. We'll get the power if we don't let them destroy the power generator. This region has an old airfield that can provide air support. We're new at actually flying these planes, but let's hope for the best. So things are going to look fairly familiar here, because right, this is Earth that was. So we have an environmental effect here. Bombs will be dropped on marked spaces, killing units. We got to be careful. They don't exactly know how to aim, so we got to be careful not to stand in the tiles they're going to hit. So if you've played tactics games before, this is probably fairly familiar. Here's some enemies. Here we have our spawning area. We're going to lay down our mechs. And right now, we just want to be kind of close to them. We'll talk about the strategic implications of different placements later, after you guys have some context for how these mechanics work. Alright, mechs can be repaired, buildings can't. So you can see the first thing that happens in each turn is the enemies all set up their moves. they don't actually do any attacking. They just run around and prep their attacks. And you can see here, this is where new enemies will spawn from. So now it's our turn. So the turn goes like this. It's the enemy prep phase, then our turn, then the enemy's actual turn. This is a perfect information game. I guess except we don't know exactly what's going to come out of the spawns. But we can see, during the enemy turn, this guy is going to take the action of hitting this building for 1 damage. Same here. And we get to use this information to our advantage. We also know that these 5 tiles are where the airstrike's going to happen. And if we mouse over attack order here, we can see what order everything's going to happen in during the enemy part of the turn. So first, the bombing will happen, which means that this guy actually is something we don't have to think about at all. At the beginning of the enemy turn, a plane will drop a bomb here, and he'll die. Then the enemies will go in the order listed on them, so this guy's second, this guy's third. This guy's not even actually attacking. I will say, we're playing on normal difficulty. I do think normal difficulty is maybe a hair too easy, but I didn't want to play on hard difficulty for the video because I'm getting thrashed on hard. So, it is. I think it's more fun, but I don't think it's going to be as good for showing off what makes this game cool. So we're just going to run up on this dude and punch the crap out of him. We got a big robot, it's got a big metal fist. Bam, did you see that? Easy. So it died, it gave us 2 XP, but we actually got 4 XP because of our special ability. So this is a big punchy robot. Then we have over here a tank robot. It looks like a tank and behaves like a tank. And over here an artillery mech. So can our tank cannot get very close to the spawning points. Alright, that's fine. We'll just lay it down. So when we fire our artillery, it does 1 damage to whatever it hits, and then it pushes away all of the things in adjacent squares. So you can see if I fired it here, it would do 1 damage in this empty square and then push this guy away. And if you deal damage to a forest tile, it lights on fire. So we're just gonna blast this guy right here. And then we could run our tank over, and we could shoot at him. But shooting at him will deal 1 damage and move him out of the space. I mean, he's already on fire. This is fine. We'll just shoot at him, move him out of the space, and because he's on fire, you can see the attack order. Fire damage is before everything else. So he'll take 1 fire damage, then the bombs will drop, and then there won't be a whole lot of enemy turn. And that's how it is. You know, each of your units gets to move and then attack. And once everybody's done, you hit end turn, and then lots of bad things happen to the enemies if you were careful and you set things up right. Here's some new spawns. Alright, these first missions are quite easy, as you might expect. So there's some value here in preventing the Vec from emerging. Not just because we have a mission for it. You know, it's just a smart thing to do. So I'm going to have our combat mech, who's a little bit out of range. Well, he could go punch this guy, I guess. No, that guy's standing in a forest. He's under control. I'm going to have our combat mech just stand on top of the place where this Vec is trying to burrow out of. Alright, and then we're going to have the artillery mech come over here and do pretty much the same thing it did the first time. We're going to just drop... Boom. And now that guy's on fire, so he will expire before dealing any damage. So, mechs can be repaired, buildings can't. At the end of every battle, all of your mechs go back to full health, but damage that's done to the power grid persists between battles. So we're not going to be able to kill this guy and prevent him from attacking. So we're just going to leave the tank where the tank is. I'm going to roll up a little bit so that we're closer to the new enemy spawns. But we're going to intentionally take the damage to protect that civilian structure over there. And there's nothing for our guy to do here, so we're just going to end the turn. Solid support, guys. Good work. Yep, so mechs automatically repair after battle. If a mech is reduced to 0 health, the pilot dies. The mech is disabled for the rest of the battle, but it's available good as new during the next battle. It just won't have a pilot in it. And pilots are a pretty limited resource. Right now we have exactly 3 pilots. If one of them died, his mech would still work. The mechs will still be playable without a pilot, but you'll lose access to the special benefits of the pilot. We'll see a little bit more of that in a second here. So you can see the enemy tried to come up underneath our battle mech, but failed. So he's still down there. He's still burrowed. He'll try to come up again next turn, and we took 1 damage for blocking him. Alright, we've encountered our first scion. So every scion gives some kind of passive bonus, and there's a couple of different kinds. This one is increasing the maximum hit points of each of the other Vex by 1. So that's annoying. That's alright, we can deal with it. So the enemies are here, giving us a little bit of an opportunity. So you can see, this guy is currently going to shoot at that civilian building. If we move him, it won't cancel his attack, but it will change where he's aiming, right? He's just aiming up the column. So if we say, do this, now he's just going to fire harmlessly into the side of this mountain. And he's blocking the spawn. So not only will this enemy fail to spawn, but in attempting to spawn, it will deal 1 damage to this guy. And that 1 damage will be enough to kill him if we get rid of the scion. I think what I'm going to do here... Need to be a little careful. I don't want to use the artillery to engage over here. At least, you know, I want to be careful about how I do it. This may be a better way to put that. Because, remember, the artillery's attack pushes, and I don't want to push this guy out of this space. I want him to get hit by the airstrike. I don't know, I guess this isn't really that complicated. We'll just walk over here and throw a punch. We definitely cannot keep blocking the spawn, because we'll get blown up by the airstrike. And so here you can see, if you knock back creatures into other creatures or into things, there's some damage done from the collision. In this case, yeah, the thing that got pushed takes 1 damage, and the thing that was pushed into takes 1 damage. And then this guy's done for. We actually don't want to shoot this guy with our artillery, because if we do, he won't block the spawn of the other Vec. So I think we're done. Yeah, I'll just move this guy to a slightly more central location, because movement is pretty limited. You want to be able to respond in multiple locations. Alright, and so up here you can see the turn counter. Each battle is a limited number of turns long. The battles are not about killing all of the Vex, they're about surviving. Alright, so we're not going to be able to accomplish this because I was too busy showing stuff off to block effectively. You can see there are no more Vex coming in. This is the final turn. All we have to do is not have our power grid drop to 0 during this turn to be considered victorious. This is pretty easy, right? They aren't actually focusing on the buildings very well. We can actually just run our robot guy over and punch this thing. But at the end of this turn, the remaining enemies are going to flee, and we're not going to get experience for anything that we didn't kill. So we want to try to line up both of our kills if we can. Unfortunately, I think that's not going to happen. I don't think we're going to be able to get this guy. Or rather, we're only going to be able to get one of the two. Because we can definitely get this guy. If I could move 1 space further so that I could stand here, punch him so that they collide, then we could definitely kill them both. Yeah, alright, we'll just take out this guy so that no damage is dealt to the civilian structure. I don't think there's any way we can manage to put together the 3 damage we would need to finish him off. Yeah, so okay, I'll just end turn. We're good, we're done. So the bomber will narrowly miss all of the civilian structures. This guy will fire off his attack and then retreat back into the earth, and all the civilians in the buildings are cheering, and I really like that's such a little touch. It seems so unimportant, but I actually think it really does help to establish tone. Alright, our nature preserves on the surface were destroyed during the fighting. There's little left of the region, but at least the Vec are gone. Yeah, I mean, listen. There are going to be some casualties. Let's hope it's just the plants. Alright, so we can keep going, and we'll keep clearing new areas until the boss Vec shows up. We have a very similar set of objectives here. End the battle with less than 4 damage and protect your coal plant. Yeah, let's do this one. This sounds easy enough. Old Earth produced massive quantities of explosives. This region is littered with uncleared ordnance, so watch your step. Oh, this'll be pretty easy then. It turns out the Vec don't know a lot about how landmines work. They make some not wise decisions. So, as you might imagine, ending your movement on a landmine is bad for your health. for example. You can actually walk past them without taking damage. The Vec are not doing a good job of displaying that. Alright, well we can punch this guy back, and he'll block this spawn. And then we can roll our tank forward. Ah yes, our unit got webbed. The thing ran up and webbed us so that we couldn't move, but we didn't need to move. They never web your arms. It seems like they should. Alright, so we're going to roll up here to block this spawn, and we're going to shoot the Scion. Hitting the Scion will do 1 damage, and then it colliding with the mountain will do another damage. And now this guy's lost his point of bonus health, so when the thing attempts to emerge below him, he will be defeated. And there's not really a lot else to... There's not much for our artillery to do here. The first island is always fairly easy, and the Old Earth Sanctuary is a relatively straightforward area. The game will get more difficult soon. Don't worry. Okay, we got a lot of spawns coming in. Well, do I want to try to get fancy with this, or... I mean, here's what we could do. We do have to watch our mech health a little bit. Oh, let's undo the move. Thankfully, there is an undo button. You can undo a move action you've just taken, and once per stage, you can completely reset to the beginning of the turn. I use that feature a lot. Here's what I want to do. I want to fire short of this guy to push him down, and then we'll have the battle mech run down here, stand on one of these, and punch him, so we get the kill and the block. Oh, and our XP bar just filled up. We got a level. We'll worry about that in a moment. And since our tank here doesn't have a lot to do, but also doesn't have full health, we'll just take the repair action this turn. You can use your action, instead of attacking, to repair 1 damage and remove negative status effects. It's a fine thing to do when you're just sitting on top of a Vec. You do have to be a little bit careful. If you're blocking, and then you suddenly lose containment, you can have one of these turns where like 5 or 6 enemies comes up at the same time, and then stuff can get tricky from there. Alright, so let's... Oh no, our artillery can't get to where I wanted him to be. I was thinking, well, this'll work. We can fire above this guy to push him down. And then we can move our tank to this spawn, and fire at him to shove him onto that mine. Now, the downside here is that obviously I want to punch this guy, and doing so will cause him to rock back into our artillery, which will damage our artillery mech. But, you know, mechs are cheap to repair. I'd rather be rid of the enemy than not take damage. Alright, so all of our mechs are down to 1 health. You may notice things have taken on a sort of a more threatening glow. I'm really not concerned. I think we've got this under control. Alright, so these 2 different enemy types attack in different ways, and if we hold control we can get a little video that displays their attack type. This guy just attacks in melee range, so actually all we have to do here is push him backwards and he won't deal any damage. This one attacks in a line. So even if we pushed him back, he would still get his shot off on the tank. So we're going to have to manage that a little bit differently. I think the best way to do it... I mean, all we have to do is just roll out of the way, right? Although he'll hit a building there. Okay, I think... Who needs the XP more? The tank is slightly closer to a level. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to roll the tank down here. We're going to finish this guy off for the XP. And then his attack, as you can see, deals 1 damage. So we're just going to intercept and repair. We'll just tank the hit so that the civilians don't take any damage. That's victory in 1 turn. And again, I'm you know, trying to show off little combat things, so I'm not doing a fantastic job of actually fulfilling our objectives. Although we have managed to completely refill our power grid. Alright, so our guy has leveled up, and he's gained +3 grid defense. So this grid defense number, this is the only bit of randomness in the entire game. When I was talking to my friend, I described this as more of a puzzle game than a tactics game because it doesn't have a lot of, like, it doesn't have attack rolls or anything, and I don't think those things are necessarily elements of a tactics game, but, you know, that stuff tends to be in there. This is the only bit of random chance in the game. Every time one of your buildings gets hit, there is a percentage chance, and this is that percent, for it to just not take any damage. It's low enough that you'll never be able to rely on it, but every once in a while, it will save your life. Every once in a while, you'll be like, oh man, there's nothing I could do to make it so that none of my buildings get hit. We're just gonna do our best, and fingers crossed for the grid defense. And when it doesn't fire, you thought it probably wouldn't, so it doesn't feel bad. And when it does fire, it feels great. I think this is a really clever way of implementing a little bit of the tension of the die roll, but without it ever feeling crappy. Alright, so we have enough power. We probably don't need to push more power. If we were to gain power while the power grid bar was full, what it would do is permanently increase our grid defense. And when I say permanently, I just mean for the rest of that run. Of course, there are roguelike elements to this, just as there were in FTL. But I think we want to acquire some stars. I have not done a good job of getting us stars so far. So here, why don't we go to Archival Flats? We'll defend some satellite launches. We've upgraded these old satellites and should be able to make use of them. With any luck, they'll survive the launch. Well, I can probably do a little bit better than luck. Alright, so obviously setting up, mostly what I'm thinking is the punch mech needs to be near the enemies. Oh, an incoming time pod. Region first, pod recovery second. So this has come through, you know, we have this time travel technology, right? This ability to breach the wall of time, the veil of time, so to speak. So sometimes other stuff comes through from other timelines, other futures, and we want this. Now we can move a unit onto it to immediately claim it, and that'll make it safe. Or we can just leave it on the ground, and as long as it doesn't get hit by an attack, we'll automatically collect it at the end of the mission. So these are our two satellites that are going to launch. Obviously rockets with satellites on them. We just need to keep them from taking 2 damage before they can go up. What is the best way to do this? So we have one of these. We have one of these scions, unfortunately, ruining everything with all of its free extra health for enemies. I really don't like these. I think we should just deal with this. Let's just take the most straightforward route to that, and then we can do a little bit of pushing here to get rid of these bad guys. If we move this guy up here and drop a shot right there. No damage, but we make the attack miss. We'll figure it out. Okay, that's what I want to see. I really like it when they focus simple, easily broken attacks on our units rather than on the buildings. Alright, so what you're seeing here, these red spaces around that thing, the 5th action during the enemy turn is that rocket is going to launch, and it's going to obliterate anything in those spaces, so we definitely need to not be there. We're going to take advantage of that a little bit, obviously. So there's a couple of cool things we get to do this turn. First of all, we do need... You know, I was going to say we do need to get this guy out of here, but he's actually only going to deal 1 damage, and the rocket's not going to take any other damage this turn, so we can just let him hit, and then the rocket will kill him on launch. I think I'm going to... We could use this mech to punch this thing, like stand here, block the spawn, punch this thing so that it blocks the spawn there. We'll just absorb the shot that it takes at us. But we also could run around here and punch it into the blast range. We'll take 1 damage from the attack, plus 1 damage from blocking the spawn. We'll be in pretty dire straits, but I think it's okay. I like these plans that prevent new enemies from showing up. Alright, so what do we want to do with our tank? As it stands right now, if I just do this, this guy will shoot at the flying enemy, and they will just hit each other. They're very single-minded. Oh, you know what? I just realized. If we take our artillery, like over to here, we fire on this guy, we'll do 1 damage, we'll push this guy back into the burning forest, he'll catch fire, and he'll die before he shoots on his turn. That means that the Vec that he's currently holding down will spawn, but it also means that our combat mech takes 1 less damage. That might be worth doing, considering we're going to be in a pretty good spot here, I think. So let's undo our tank move. I've changed my mind about how I want this to go down. I'm thinking we can move the tank, like, to here, shoot at this guy so that he collides with the mountain. Or we can move to here, claim the time pod, shoot this guy. We still don't take that point of damage. We still get this guy absorbing the shot. Yeah, I think I like that plan a lot, actually. We'll move here, finish this guy off to reduce the damage on our combat mech, and also to just get XP for our tank pilot, because he could level up. That would be okay. And then I think we'll shoot this guy for once, that he is killed by this other attack. Yeah, that feels like a pretty good turn. So we can use the Vec to thin out the numbers of the Vec, and in fact, in later missions, this will become very, very important. Because they're going to come too fast, and they're going to have too much health for us to manually kill all of them. Alright, this is a situation we can work with this. We can do stuff with this. So it would be really cool if we could push the enemies down onto these spawns so that I didn't have to worry about them myself. So we could fire right here to push this guy down. Then we could use the tank to push one of the others down. I guess it doesn't really matter who. Yeah, they both have full health. So we use the tank to push him down. He'll block there. And I think, actually, the best thing for us to do as far as controlling the damage income, like controlling the rate at which the enemy force is getting stronger, is to just stand right here and repair. So we'll only get 1 new enemy spawn. Alright, that rocket's about ready to go, and the final turn is coming up, so we don't have to worry about any new enemies appearing. Okay, this situation's starting to get a little intense. I think we can probably figure this out. So let's start by... This one is the only one that's actually threatening a building. So he's a priority. We can solve this problem right here by just having the tank shoot this guy out of the way. I'm trying to figure out if there's a reason to do this in a fancy way, or if we just take like the very simple shots that are in front of us. We do it this way, generate a little bit of extra damage on this guy in case I want to kill him with the artillery unit. Actually, I don't really have a way of doing that even. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to kill any of them. Hold on. Let's back up. I wonder if there's a way to get more kills here. This is greedy. I mean, there's no reason that we have to do this. I'm just trying to optimize XP a little bit. So if we fire on this guy, we'll push him to here, where he's no longer relevant. I don't have to think about him anymore. But that's just another kill we could take if we wanted to. Then we run the combat mech up and punch this one. So he's dead. So we've established 1 kill, and we still have this really wounded guy. But the tank is still webbed. He can't actually participate. There's a version of this where I get 2 kills probably. But we'll just go ahead and do things the way that's most obvious. You shoot him, breaks the web, and then all you actually have to do is get out of the way. And that's it. That's the mission beaten. There's no point in firing or anything. Yeah, we're good. Okay, we did it. And that time we actually did a good job. So we get our 2 stars, we saved all of the civilians, we got all this XP, and we recovered this pod. What's inside? Okay, a reactor core. That's fine. Not quite what I was hoping for, but it'll do. Sometimes those have like a reactor core and a weapon and a pilot in them. As you secure regions and complete objectives, you get reputation with the local corporation, and then at the end of the island we spend that reputation to get free stuff. They give us stuff. Also, we have a reactor core. So this is going to be a little bit familiar if you played FTL as well. We can install reactor cores to increase the maximum power capacity of our mechs, and then we can spend those points of power to increase their capabilities. Now for right now, I think we'll just put it here, install it here, and then we'll spend the extra point of power on more movement. Dude can only really punch. It's important that he actually be able to get to the enemies. Everybody else has a ranged attack, so his movement is more important than everyone else's. And I think let's do the library, because we want to accumulate some more currency here, more than we need more power. Destruction of the dam in this region is a necessary evil. It will create a natural barrier between us and the burrowing Vec. We have to destroy this dam, try to kill at least 7 enemies. I see the dam has 2 health. Okay. Yeah, now the Vec are going to get it, probably. I appreciate that the people have so much faith in me. Alright, we're not in a hurry on this destroying the dam thing. We have time. I think what I'm going to do here, we'll move the artillery over to here. We'll fire like this. The reason I want to start with this is because then I want to move him to here. And I believe we're going to prevent this attack because we're going to punch this guy for 2. And then he's going to take 1 more when he collides with the Scion. The Scion's going to take 1 from the collision as well. Doing it this way kills both of them and means that we don't have to worry about the Scion passive health bonus on the enemies for the rest of the level. And then we're just going to have the tank do what his name implies and eat this shot. So we're just looking for 1 turn during this mission where we can afford to throw a punch at the dam. What's going to be the best way to deal with this? Honestly, what would be really ideal was if we could have the tank over here to do his damage and knockback thing. Well, we can just commit the hero, the combat mech. Block a spawn. We can take down these 2 enemies pretty easily, and then we can use the artillery to either block the shot, or we could like stand here and fire here and shift this guy so that he's firing on an axis that no longer matters. Alright, so we do this. Then I'm actually going to back the tank up before firing, just so that we have a little bit more movement available to move laterally next turn. Yeah, and then we'll fire like this. It'll push the combat mech, but he'll still be blocking a spawns. That's fine. Okay, this is pretty alright. I'm not too worried about this. The webbing is annoying, though. So obviously we can push this guy back and make the webbing irrelevant. This one chose not to attack, which I appreciate. It's nice of him. How do I want to deal with this? I'm thinking if we punch this guy back, and then we use the artillery... Actually, we should fire our artillery first, right? We fire an artillery shot right here. It'll move this guy to the side, so he'll block a spawn and his attack will miss. And then this might be the moment. Now that we're not in any imminent danger, this might be the moment to just run over and throw a punch at this dam. Alright, so we can't use our abilities while swimming in water. Most of the Vex will actually die if they fall in water, but our mechs have the trait Massive, which allows us to walk in water. We just can't use our abilities. Some Vex are also massive, and some of them fly. I believe that you as the player also eventually get access to flying stuff. Well, we can't roll our tank up and block this spawn. I guess I could. We could roll up here and repair. Then we'll take 2 damage, 1 from the attack and 1 from the spawn. But we also could just roll up here and shoot at this guy. We'll push him back. His attack will still miss. He'll still block a spawn. We get a little bit of damage on him toward killing him during the next turn. We'd have to get 7 enemies down in order to actually fulfill the mission. We're only going to have 1 more turn here. I might not make it. That guy did something that's easy enough to just walk out of. That's good. Oh no, we're totally going to make it. Actually, this is great. Because this guy is standing adjacent to the water. So we're going to drop an artillery shot right here. It's going to kill him. It's going to push him off into the water. And then we have... yeah, we have plenty of range here. We'll just run up, punch this guy, and the tank can finish this one off. So in a lot of ways, like it's a game about combat, but in a lot of ways it really plays more like a sliding block puzzle than a fighting, like a strategy game. Alright, well this island has gone really well, like even better than I was expecting, honestly. We've taken no meaningful damage, we've got a couple of stars. Oh, and here it comes. Drawn out by your offensive against the Vec, the Hive leader is assaulting corporate HQ. Well, let's get in there and save him. Some kind of Vec abomination is approaching our headquarters. Whatever it is, it must be stopped. So what it is a flying enemy, and a really good one. This guy has 3 move, he's massive and flying, and he has a ton of health, and you can see there his attack does 2 damage to each of 3 tiles in a row. This could be difficult. We're gonna line up our strong punch and mech on the same side as the dangerous enemy. Let's see what he does. Hopefully we can bait him forward. Yep, that's exactly what I was hoping. Because if he had moved to a position where he was targeting a couple of buildings or a mech and a building or something, you know, the decision would have been a little bit more complicated. Fortunately, all we have to do is move our tank out of the way to be okay here. How do we want to do this? What's the most effective way of dealing with this enemy? Because we do want to bring him down, both because he's worth XP and because we'll get a star for doing it. And when we move the tank, where do we want to move it to? I could move the artillery. I'm trying to figure out, like, whether it's worth it to just push this guy out of the way. Obviously, we don't want him to hit the building, and if we move over here and then fire at him, he'll take damage from being slammed into the buildings, but one of the buildings will die. We'll lose a power. So I'm trying to figure out what the smart way of doing this is. We have to move clear. But once we've moved, we won't be able to... once we move the tank, we won't be able to use it to fire on this guy. And we still have to get him away from the building somehow. Our movement range is pretty limited. I really wish we could move to this space so that we could use the artillery fire to push him down. Yeah, because what I really want to do is push him up into the Hornet Leader's attack. But unfortunately, we just don't have the movement. Yeah, if I could stand here with the artillery, we could make that happen. In fact, We can make that happen anyway. What if I move the tank to here, just so that we're out of range? No, this won't work. I need to move this guy up, maybe. Unfortunately. Well, you know what? The tank getting hit doesn't actually kill it. Maybe it's okay for the tank to get hit. It also might be the case that we're going to have to sacrifice a point of city stability here. It does happen. It seems like there are times when your best option is we take a small hit to prevent a series of hits or a larger hit. So if we just fired up right now, pushing this guy up, then we can move the artillery over to here. No, that doesn't help us. Our units are grouped too tightly together for that to be effective. So what is the movement of our artillery mech? It's 3. You can see down in the lower left there. So if this weren't here, we could move the artillery mech here. I'm starting to think that this is maybe just our best option for right now. Just let the tank take the 2 damage. This safeguards the civilians, and then we can move our artillery unit to here, which lets us fire on this guy without pushing him into the buildings or anything. Well, now that we've done this, now that we've resigned ourselves to the tank taking the damage, I think maybe we also just throw a punch here with the combat mech. Start stacking damage up on this guy, because he does have to die. It's a thing that we have to deal with. Oh, actually, we can back our artillery mech up, score a direct hit here, and push our tank out of the way. That's the smart version of that. In fact, probably the best thing to do would have been to take this artillery shot before moving the bug. And that way we could slam the tank into it before it moves to do a little bit of extra damage. The tank would take 1 damage from that, but the bug would also take 1 damage, and then next turn the tank could just kill it in a single hit. I don't think that's worth spending our reset to do, though. Let's save the reset for in case I do something phenomenally stupid in the next couple of turns. Is a definite possibility. Okay, this is a little bit more what I was worried about. This means that we have to pay a lot more attention to this guy. I mean, all we have to do is punch him down, but that does mean we have to spend that action that way, and we can't do other stuff with it, which might have been beneficial. I think we're going to take some civilian building damage here. Let me see, is there a way to stop this? Because, like, this is very important. It doesn't necessarily have to be this, but it has to be this or, like, using the artillery to move him. Is there anything our hero could do that would be better? Our hero could go fix this. Just punch this guy. Then we could use the artillery to move the boss up. Doing that will mean that the boss kills this guy. And yeah, the boss does act first during the enemy turn. So why don't we try something like that? Move you up here. Throw this punch. Have the artillery fire here. So now the Hornet leader will defeat this guy on his turn. And then the tank can make himself safe. Unfortunately, we are gonna endure a point of fire on the civilian buildings, but I didn't really set us up very well. Kind of set us up for failure on this turn. Alright, and when that happened, there was a 21% chance for the building to just resist the damage, but we did not get lucky. I do feel like the situation's pretty under control, though. Alright, so combat mech can deal with this. I'd love to actually be doing damage to the Hornet leader. We may not kill him. But we can keep shifting him around with our artillery at least and negating the danger of his attacks. So I think we're going to go ahead and just shoot straight with the tank because we will kill this guy due to the collision between him and the other enemy. You can have the combat mech come down here and do the same. And then, unfortunately, as much as I would like to deal damage, I think the only real move is... like this, we just move the Hornet Leader again so that his attack misses. Alright, and here comes our final turn. We'd have to get 4 damage on this guy to defeat him. I believe it is not happening. I'm pretty bummed out about this. I was hoping to be able to move our combat mech around the end of this line and just punch them into each other. Yeah, the Hornet Leader survives. Oh well. I don't think it's necessarily a big deal. Man, I really wish we had one more point of movement on our tank. I would love to have him move around to here. So we can just move him out of the line of fire. This projectile is not going to hit a building if he gets out of there, so that's not a big deal. I think we can move the artillery to here. Move the boss out of the way. Combat mech defends himself. Okay, and we hit level 3 with him, which is nice. And then there's no version of this that ends up with us getting any more XP. So I guess we'll just move here and take this shot. Alright, not bad. That was not a perfect island. Obviously, we failed to get several rewards. But on the whole, that was pretty good, I think. And we saved the vast majority of the civilians. There were 5,000 to be saved, 1,000 per level over 5 levels. We did let one building get hit, so bad on us. With the Abomination still alive, the Vec remain a serious threat to the region. I hope you find more success on the other islands. Hey, we kept almost everybody alive. So he leveled up, and his mech HP has increased by 2. And one of our other guys leveled up, and we got another 3 grid defense out of him. That's fine. Alright, so we're about to leave here, but we can spend the reputation we've earned with this corporation first. So you can always buy reactor cores at 3 stars each, and points of grid power at 1 star each. And you can buy them even if you're at full and get the grid defense upgrade. But each island will generate basically like an FTL store for you. So we have a cheap item here, a beam that freezes everything in a line. This is a science class weapon, so it is equipped on a science mech for 2 power, or a non-science mech for 3 power. I don't think there's anything that actually requires it be equipped on a certain type. It's just that if you don't equip it on the right type, it costs 1 more power to use it. Hydraulic legs that you leap to a tile, damaging yourself and adjacent tiles and pushing, it looks like. By the way, I love the fact that there are little videos attached to this, so you don't have to try to like parse out exactly what's going on from the text. It's like this text doesn't mention the extra push, but that's vital to the way this thing will be used. Okay, and an any class version of that thing that doesn't deal the damage. Those are interesting. Repairing 1 mech will affect all your mechs. Okay, if you're using your mechs to just eat a lot of enemy shots or to block enemies a lot, I can see this being very valuable. I like this. Let's buy this. Then we have 3 reputation left. Let's also get a reactor core. That Frostbeam's pretty cool. And you can see we can sell back things that we already own, including our pilots, if we don't feel they're contributing much. Like, this guy's actually literally contributing nothing right now. The artillery thing would be just as effective empty. But once we get him leveled up, he'll get some stat bonuses or something. But like, is it worth discarding this guy in order to also take the Frostbeam? Yeah, you know what? I think it is. I'm totally willing to do that. Grant Smith, you work for them now. We get our reactor core, and I'm feeling pretty good about our progress here. So let's... We don't actually even have the power to actually use all of this stuff at the same time. Who would want a Frostbeam? Probably the artillery. There are times when the artillery attack is awkward. So you can see we'd have to allocate 3 reactor power to use that. We will not be doing that just yet. We can put this on you. We'll install that 1 reactor that we bought and apply this. This seems great. Like, you can see there are a lot of situations where you end up with everybody at like 1 or 2 health, and being able to repair everybody all at once is very, very action efficient. And that's it. We did it. We beat that island. So by completing one island, we've unlocked the second one. And once you, when you play a new game, you can play the islands you've unlocked in any order, but you still have to, complete 2 islands to get to this one for the first time, and complete 3 to get to this one for the first time. And then after you've done at least 2 islands, you can go to the final island. Obviously, we're not going to push on any further on this run. But once you've beaten 2 islands, you can go on to the final island. And the difficulty of the final island scales up over time, but your power level also scales up over time. So you could choose to do 3 islands before beating it, or all 4. And I think your chance of success is best if you do all 4, because you and the enemies scale up in numbers at about the same speed, but your pilots will get XP and unlock extra abilities. If they're good pilots, you'll see more stuff in the shops, So that's where we're going to leave it from this game. I do, though, want to... Let's save and quit out to the main menu. I want to jump back over to my personal profile where I've been playing, just to show you guys some of this stuff here. So I'm between games. But, here's what some of the new squads look like. There's these flame behemoths that have all these cool flame attacks, and they do burning damage to stuff, and you spend a lot of time shifting enemies around and dragging them through the fires you've created. The third mech for these guys doesn't have a weapon on it at all. It just swaps positions with stuff. But it's flying and fireproof. So you can fly it over a chasm or a river and swap enemies into that, or obviously move it into a fire and swap it into that. Also really good for getting enemies to attack each other. Enemies line up their shot on you and then you just swap out. There's these guys. These guys are super cool. They don't really have a lot of weapons, but they're all about moving the enemies around, and one of them has a passive that causes the enemies to do bonus damage to each other. So, you're pulling the enemies out of position, repositioning yourself, throwing the enemies over obstacles, and trying to line them up so that they hit each other for bonus damage. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on in this game. I have a couple of the pilots unlocked, so you can see some of them have some really cool abilities. This pilot allows you to deploy anywhere on the map, not just in the starting zone, and when you deploy, you deal 1 damage to each enemy adjacent to your position. Your mech can shoot and shoot instead of move and shoot. With some mechs, this is super, super powerful. For example, where is it? Here, the Rusting Hulks. The Rusting Hulks have a jet mech whose basic ability is fire and move, and you drop a smoke bomb on an enemy, and enemies in smoke can't use their attacks. So you can just do 2 hops instead of moving and then hopping. There's some really, really fun stuff. And if you played FTL, you know how good these guys are at crafting sets of abilities that make the game feel very different without any of the enemy mechanics or anything actually changing. So anyway, that's going to be it for us for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this got people interested in this. I probably didn't really need to do this. I know that this has been getting a lot of press because obviously a lot of people enjoyed FTL. But it's great. What I'm here to tell you is I've been playing for a while. I put probably 6 hours into it today, and it's just fantastic. So I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you next time.